Africans who were kidnapped and brought to the Americas as slaves. I spent my early childhood in the racist, segregated South. I later moved to the northern part of the country, where I realized that Black people were equally victimized by racism and oppression. I grew up and became a political activist, participating in student struggles, the anti-war movement, and most of all, in the movement for the liberation of African Americans in the United States. I later joined the Black Panther Party, an organization that was targeted by the COINTELPRO program, a program that was set up by the Federal Bureau of Investigation to eliminate all political opposition to the U.S. government's policies, to destroy the Black liberation movement in the United States, to discredit activists, and to eliminate potential leaders. At this point, I think that it is important to make one thing very clear. I have advocated, and I still advocate, revolutionary changes in the structure and in the principles that govern the United States. I advocate self-determination for my people and for all oppressed people inside the United States. I advocate an end to capitalist exploitation, the abolition of racist policies, the eradication of sexism, and the elimination of political repression. If that is a crime, then I am totally guilty.
You're listening to the voices of New Africa. Free the land.
We are back once again at the Voices of New Africa, the show where we educate the uneducated and re-educate the miseducated. You were just listening to the sounds of one of our great sheroes of the struggle, the one and only Assata Shakur. And if you don't know about this sister, yo, you need to do some research, because she had a story that is so dynamic and so important. A lot of times we look at the struggles and the individuals who were significant in our liberation movement, even if it's our civil rights movement, whatever movement is for the elevation of the condition of Black people in America. A lot of times when you look at the leadership and the people who are at the forefront, too many times it ends tragically. Whether you're looking at a brother like Marcus Garvey, who was, kicked out of the country out over some trumped up charges, Martin Luther King assassinated, Brother Malcolm X assassinated, Mark Clark, Fred Hampton assassinated, Medgar Evers assassinated. Too many times our great leaders have just been brutalized and murdered and come to a tragic end. And now their legacy lives on, and in death they become even more powerful. But the story of Sister Assata Shakur, the great Sister Assata Shakur, didn't end like that. See, Assata Shakur was involved with a conflict with a police in New Jersey, and ultimately there was a shootout, and a police officer was killed. Now, during the shootout, Assata Shakur was shot several times in her car, while she's sick. She was shot several times, brutalized, beat, sent to prison. It was obvious that our sister Assata Shakur did not commit the murder, but she was charged with the murder. And while she was in prison, she was put in a all-male prison. She was brutalized, beaten, in a really bad situation. This sister, beautiful sister. But our people, which she was part of the Black liberation movement back in the 60s, our people said, no, we ain't going for that. We can't have our queen in the belly of the beast getting raped and beaten and brutalized by our oppressor. And they got together and they devised a plan, and they broke this sister out of prison. Understand, they went into the prison system and got her. And then she escaped to Cuba. And check this out, she is still there today. That's why it's been a massive movement here in America, really globally, all over America. Because the United States government hates her guts. Because she is an example of when they didn't win. Their racism, their oppression, they didn't win. Somebody dared stand up against the system of white supremacy. And white people could not make an example of her. And she's free today, so they've been trying to get her. When Obama opened up relationship with Cuba, there were elements within the government who came to Cuba and said, look, you need to turn over Assata Shakur. And the Cuban government was like, we ain't doing nothing. We offered her a political asylum because she was a political prison under your system of oppression right there in America. And like I said, she is still there today. And what you heard was Assata Shakur, in her own words, one of our great shining sheroes of the struggle for liberation of new African people, and she should be someone that we always hold up. There are a lot of our leaders that we never talk about. We never hear about them. They don't talk about them in the miseducation system in America. But there are a lot of our leaders that we should hold up, and we should make movies about, and we should glorify them. You know, for 400 years, 200 years in this country, we've had statues of colonial terrorists, murderers of our people. Right here in Memphis, Tennessee, it was just recently they took down a statue, life-size statue of Nathan Bedford Forrest, which was the first Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. It was right there on Union Street. He was sitting on a horse looking like some big god in this majority African city. And they just recently took him down, like a few years ago, a year or two ago. And I almost hate that they took it down, because, you know, with this movement to get rid of all statues and people tearing down the statues, I would have loved to come down there and tear down that one. I would have loved, because we did several programs back in the day talking about that beast, that terrorist. You know what I'm saying? This guy, you know, owned a slave making farm, where they used to take our brothers and sisters and they actually forced them to have sex with each other. They forced brothers to rape women so they can produce babies who could be sold into slavery, because human beings were property back then. Our people were considered property under the system of chattel slavery. So Nathan Bedford Forrest owned a plantation where they call them breeding farms, where they bred black people like you breed animals. You know, it's something serious when you say in the Constitution black people will only be represented as 3/5 as human beings. That's something serious. There's a lot behind that. It's not just rhetoric. But they had a statue of this guy who used to breed black people like they were animals, like they were dogs, and then take the children, take the offspring, and sell them for profit. Sell human beings for profit. Take the babies from the mama so they can sell them for profit. And this guy got rich like that. He got rich. And then he was a general in the Civil War. And while he was in the Civil War, he was responsible for a massacre in Fort Pillow, Tennessee. They call it the Fort Pillow Massacre, where there were Union soldiers who had surrendered, and most of these were, you know, black people, you know, a lot of black civilians, and they gave up. It's like, okay, you win, because to his credit, Nathan Bedford Forrest was actually military, you know, strategist. He was good in military. He was good at war. A lot of white people are good at war, but these people surrendered, like over 400 men, something like that. And Nathan Bedford Forrest just basically said, kill them all. And he murdered all of these people right there in Tennessee, not too far from here. And if you go up there today in Fort Pillow, Tennessee, you know what you find? You find a massive prison right there. But they had this guy standing up in Memphis, Tennessee. So, you know, I say that, you know, because I kind of got sidetracked. We was talking about Assata Shakur. But I say that to say this. For centuries, they've had oppressors, colonizers, terrorists, murderers, gigantic symbols of the oppression of our people, flaunted in front of our face, in our cities, in our universities, everywhere in America, as a reminder that in America, you are not free. You are not equal. Your life does not matter. This is an insult. So I'm saying that if they can do that for all of these years, then they shouldn't be allowed to tell us who we can celebrate, who we can acknowledge, who we can hold up as our hero. So I'm holding up Assata Shakur high. We love you, Sister Assata. If by some chance this broadcast reaches you in Cuba, we want you to know that we love you. And if they ever try to put a hand on you, it's going to be hell to pay. So long live Assata Shakur. Hands off Assata.